Okay, so we're going to go through some guard passing. It's been a while since we've been on YouTube, but through a bit of neglect. But we're going to go through some guard passing basics, some guard passing techniques, and some concepts that you're going to need every time you pass a guard. So let's have a look at Sean. Sean's going to hit the mat. And everybody knows what we want to do when we want to pass the guard. We want to get past his legs, and for knee on belly, side control, or whatever we want to do. But one of the keys to guard passing is going to be this 3-step thing that I'm going to show today, right? So anybody can do a technique. Let's have a look at Toreanda pass. I take his grip and I pass the guard, and everybody goes, hey, that's get side control, that's guard pass. But when you actually start to improve, and as your level starts to go up, that's not the guard pass, because what happens is when you do Toreanda and you get to here, Sean begins to pummel his legs back inside, begins to make frames, and come here. So actually what we need is we need to have a strategy that works almost all of the time. And it's going to be this: legs, hips, upper body. So I need to control his legs, lock in his hips, then control his upper body. And this is going to improve your guard passing in general, no matter what technique you're using. So let's look at the Toreanda again for an example. So the difference between the Toreanda I did the first time, which was basically control the legs and attack the upper body, and this one, which is control the legs, pin the hips, and then attack the upper body, is huge. Because what it does is it takes away, if we just move back a little bit, it takes away Sean's ability to re-guard. Likewise, if you think about almost any other pass, if you think about the X pass that we do here, if I do X pass, and if at this moment I just let go of his hips and I just go for his upper body, of course he's going to re-guard almost every time. So instead, when I do the X pass, I spin him here, and I go to his hips first, lock in his hips. Now I can take my time to attack the upper body and eventually finish on top. So the concept is legs, hips, upper body. If you go legs to upper body, almost always, as your quality of opponent improves, you're going to fail the guard pass. So let's have a look at another common pass, the shin cut, because this follows the rule as well. If I want to do shin cut, even seated, here Sean, so I need to control his legs a little bit. The shin cut itself controls the hips. And even now, if I go too quickly to the upper body, Sean is going to improve his position. So even now I'm controlling his hips and passing to the upper body eventually. So it's not a hard and fast rule. There's going to be guard passes that break it, cartwheeling over and all kind of stuff like that can generally be in that category. But more or less all of the time, that's what it's going to be: legs, hips, upper body. One more concept today. So I spoke with this with some students on Saturday, is balance. So it should be pretty obvious that keeping your balance is a really, really good idea in jiu-jitsu, but very often what happens is you just become so obsessed with, say for example, passing the guard, that you miss your balance. So an example of that with our Toreanda would be, when I go to the Toreanda, that when I get here, I come off balance, and Sean's able to come up on top. So it's more important that I balance and I stay in posture all the time. So there's a couple of rules of balance that we're going to go over now. The first one is head over hips, hips over feet. Just slide back a bit this way, Sean. So head over my hips, and my hips are over my feet. And if you're standing like this, you're obviously in balance. If you're standing like this, you're obviously in balance here as well. So my hips more or less over my feet. If I let my head drift too far forwards, I'm falling forwards. For Sean's sweeps, he doesn't have to do too much to upset my balance. Once he upsets my balance, it's very hard for me to pass the guard. So when I'm coming inside here like this to try and get maybe Toreanda or shin cut or whatever it is, I'm going to try and keep that head over hips. So I'm not going to let my head travel too far forward too quickly. There are exceptions, of course, especially when you begin to pass the guard. You're going to start to use your head pressure here for passes like this. But most of the time, that's what we want. You're going to try and keep your balance. That means not over-committing to some guard passes. The last one I'm going to do is something I stole, and it's something we're talking about when we talk about passing here like this, for example. This one's I nicked from a concept that a saying that I nicked from Gunnar Nelson, so from Gunnar Nelson. Just won the UFC there on Saturday night. So the concept is that if you're passing the guard and you pause, you press freeze frame in the video, and you Photoshop out the opponent, you should still look like you have balance. So you should look like you're not going to fall over. An example of this would be here, right now. If I get Sean to move away, I kept my balance. I look like I've got balance. So even though I'm committed and I've got pressure on him, he doesn't control my pressure and he doesn't control my weight. The time that people say, well, that always breaks it, is the likes of like bullfighter style passing when I'm here like this. But actually, when you look, the best bullfighter passes do it. They are actually pretty much in balance and they're controlling and moving their opponents. They're not overcommitted here like this, like reaching forwards and losing their balance all of the time. And their game for the passing positions comes from moving their opponent around and making progress while still keeping their balance. So, basic concept there, guys. Head over hips, hips over feet for your balance. Always maintaining your balance. The Photoshop idea, so have a little check of that while you're rolling. And those 3 steps, legs, hips, then upper body. Those 3 steps to guard passing. Okay, hopefully that helps you out. I'll see you next time. Oos. Thank you.